Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of DeLorean Tech, and today we're going to show you how to install Dave McKeen's ground bus in your relay compartment. Now the ground bus is for the forward relay section where you have your fan relay, your fan fail module, your blower relays, and your headlight relays. So we're going to be replacing this. As you can see, it's daisy chain, so you've got, that almost looks like Christmas lights. This is no good for the car. So Dave McKeen has come up with a better solution. Now, seeing as how this is also a get grounded video, we're going to take it a step further. We're actually going to ground this directly to the bulkhead ground. And if you remember in our previous get grounded video, we grounded that point to the transmission. So that'll improve the ground. At that point, it'll also improve the ground for those relays that are typically running rather warm. Sometimes they overheat because of this sort of daisy chain ground bus that's in the car. Okay, so here's what comes with the ground harness. So you get the ground harness itself, you get some instructions, and you get a butt connector. So the first thing you got to do is get in your relay compartment here, and you're going to have to remove this bank. This is the forward relay bank right here. So this has to come off the car. And in order to access the screws here that are holding it in place, you're going to have to remove this relay and this relay at least. So we'll go ahead and do that. So in order to get these relays off here, what I would do is I would recommend pulling the dome light relay off. I don't have one in here because I run LED lights. So what you can do is just get a little flathead screwdriver like this, and then just open it up just a little bit underneath there, just so you can raise it, and then kind of wiggle these around a little bit. If you have the Dave McKeen relays in here, I recommend doing that just to get it started, but don't try to pry it off completely. What you want to do is just sort of separate the relay from the socket, and then just sort of wiggle it back and forth a little bit. Okay, so we have the fan relay removed. So we have access now to that little screw right here. So we're going to be able to take that off. But the other screw we need to take off is this. And this is where you have your headlight relay. So we'll go ahead and remove the headlight relay a little bit here. Just back it off with the screwdriver just to separate it. Okay, so we got the headlight relay off here. Again, you want to make sure that you're extra careful, especially if you're using one of the solid state relays here, because you don't want to bend or break the terminals here. So now we just have to remove these two screws right here. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I think a larger socket with an adapter and a 8mm seems to work pretty good. So you get a little bit more length there. Using an extension with this doesn't seem to work because there's not enough clearance in here. So there's screw number one that you have to remove. We'll go ahead and go after the other one next. All right, there we go. There it is. So those are kind of a pain. Now you should be able to free this completely. So you need to kind of pull it up a little bit. Just be careful. And now we're going to need to remove the relays. It's a lot easier to do this with the entire relay bank removed. Again, just be careful. If you've got these Dave McKeen relays, are very expensive. You don't want to damage these. Here's the fan fail. It's coming off. There we go. That's one of the blower relays. Again, they're kind of tight in there, so you're going to have to really sort of work them out. Here comes off the second blower. Now it should be pretty easy to take this last one off. Now you have more leverage. Back and forth a little bit, and you're good to go. So here we go. Now we have all of them removed. It's time to start pulling out the ground wires from down below here. So we're going to start removing the ground wires here. So you're going to need to get underneath there and pull these black wires out. Dave has all of them listed that you need to do. They're numbered. Each socket is numbered, and we're going to push out the pins in there that are holding the terminals in place, and we're going to back out the connector and then replace it with the new ground bus. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So with the bus wiring here, you're gonna need to plan out which of these connectors you're gonna use for each of the different relay sockets. So what I'm gonna do is, you've got 4 connectors here of different lengths, right, on this side. So I think I'm gonna run the longest one to the fan fail, the next longest to the fan relay, this one to the dome lamp, and then this one to this blower relay right here. And then on this side, I'm gonna go blower, headlight, and then headlight. So each of these modules can slide off, so that way you can kind of work on each one individually. I have my fan fail connector sort of taped onto the side of the fan relay, so I can kind of work on those together. So you just really got to locate the proper ground wire that needs to be replaced, and based on the instructions that Dave gives. So for example, if we look at Dave's instructions here, he's saying that the fan fail is pin 30. So we will look for pin 30. So it's really hard to see, but these black wires, and they're gonna be black, so that should help you identify which wires you're gonna need to remove. That actually says pin 30 right there. So it's very hard to read, but they are the black wires, but it also helps to make sure that you're getting the right pin number as well, just in case some of this stuff was rewired. You'll notice that there's 2 wires going in here, and that's because it's daisy chained. That's actually the problem. There really should just be 1 wire going in there. What happens is, you got 1 wire coming in, 1 wire coming out, and going to the next socket over, and it just keeps continuing that way. So that's not the proper way to ground a relay bank. So Dave recommends using a large paper clip to essentially press on the retaining knob while pulling and pushing on the wire itself. So it's actually really easy to do this. And what you'll notice is that in here, you know, we're going after this one right here. So there's actually a little slot right there. You can see that. What you want to do is push the paper clip in and then pull the connector out. It's very easy to do that. Okay, so we've already got 1 down. So we're going to go ahead and just go 1 at a time. So the next one is the fan relay socket. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing. So there's a slot right there. We'll push in on that. And then we'll pull on these wires here. There we go. So we got that one out now. So just keep repeating the same thing for each of these different relay sockets here. So now we're going to go after the dome relay. So you can pull that one off. Flip it around here. Let's go ahead and do the same thing there. Push in a little socket right there, or that little slot. Push in. And then pull the connector out. It might take a little bit of work. There we go. You just got to push in and push out sometimes. There's the 3rd one. Now we're going to do this one here. This is going to be blower 4, pin 85. So blower 4, pin 85 right here. That is pin 85 right there. And you've got the daisy chained wire. We're going to go ahead and remove that one. So again, just put your paper clip in that little slot right there. It's very simple. Just push in and voila, just take that one out. We're going to move on to blower number 3, which is also pin 85. Again, right here, I'm going to go ahead and put the paper clip in the slot. And then just pull the wire out from the back. There we go. There's blower 3. Now we're going to go for the high beam headlight relay. And I'll disconnect that one. Again, just be very careful around here. These wires are 40 years old. They've been connected. So on this one here, this one is pin 85 as well, which is identical to the other. We're just going to remove the same. You can always hold it in there too and back it out that way. So there's that. And we're almost done. So at least as far as removing these goes. So we've got one more to do. And again, this one is also pin 85. This is the low beam. And it's right here. Let's go ahead and remove that one. That was easy to do. So as you can see, that one's out as well. Okay, so now we have them all out. Now, we just got to locate the entire daisy chain harness and remove it so that we can replace it with the new ground bus, the proper ground bus. So let's go ahead and do that. So one thing I did forget to mention here, and it's actually in Dave's instructions, is that there is an additional ground wire. It's going to the fan relay, and it's in the center of the fan relay. And Dave actually says that it's not needed, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. And it's in the center. You can see it right here. So as I was taking out this daisy chained ground bus, I noticed that there was an additional ground wire in the center right here. You can actually remove that and not use it, so we'll go ahead and take that one out. So again, with the paper clip. All right, so now that we have that extra wire removed, we can start working this daisy chain harness out of here. Just carefully start maneuvering the entire harness out of here. And it's kind of connected to the bundle of wiring, so you may need to remove some of the tape that's kind of holding it all together if you want to actually physically remove the bus itself. You could leave it in here. It's not going to do anything if you just kind of leave it in here and you don't want to separate the wiring and stuff. But I just want to make sure it's not kind of bunched up in here with all the other wires. So you can see how they are. They're all kind of attached here to this large bundle of wires that's down here. So if you want to remove it, you'll have to separate this bundle here by eliminating some of that tape in there. Or again, if you want, you can just leave it in there. It's not a big deal to have them in there. You can cut them off as well here. So what you can do is just very carefully remove some of that electrical tape right there, and you can go back and apply some new electrical tape to it. So what you can do is start separating these from each other, and then you can access the tape a lot easier. And just either cut it, or you can just back it off slowly, and then just start removing the original daisy chain wiring. So as you can see here, I'm just unraveling the old electrical tape. It really has no stickiness to it after all these years, so you can really just unwrap it and then come back in with some new electrical tape and replace it. So this is pretty easy to do. So as you can tell, I have most of the tape removed here, and as you're removing the tape, you can start removing the daisy chained wiring. So I got most of it out already. It's not too difficult to do this. I think it's safer to try to remove the tape by hand as opposed to cutting it. You don't want to accidentally cut into these wires. So I just completed removing all of the gray electrical tape here from the wiring harness itself, the bundle of wires. Now I'm able to pull out the daisy chain ground bus and see how that looks. And I used a combination of my hands, some tweezers. I had to make a few little snips with some scissors, but I didn't do a whole lot of cutting. I just started it, and I started pulling away the electrical tape with some tweezers just to prevent damaging these wires in here. So you'll have to start unraveling this. All right, so I was able to completely remove the daisy chain wiring here. So I've got it to where you're gonna have to cut this off. So I'm going to cut it off back here. So what we're going to do is, so this is the terminal, the connector for the low beam relay right here, and we're going to cut right here. So this wire is going into the bundle. I'm going to cut this right here. There it is. So now we can remove whole entire daisy chain wiring. And here it all is, all this. So we finally got rid of it. All right, so here's a comparison between the factory daisy chained ground bus and Dave McKeen's ground bus. As you can see, it's very simple, and we're going to proceed to make the connections throughout. But yeah, there's a big difference here. And the problem here again is that, you know, you've got this daisy chain deal going on, all this extra wiring that you don't need. And according to Dave, you have some issues as well with the crimps that were being made here. So we're going to go ahead and install the new ground bus. All right, so the normal instructions would be to tie the new ground bus into this wire right here. However, this being a get grounded video, we're going to go a little further. So you could wire in, you could splice in the new ground bus to this wire here, but I don't know where that wire ultimately goes through. It could daisy chain to other grounds. So what we're going to do is we are going to ground the front relay bank directly to that ground post right there on the bulkhead. So if you remember our previous Get Grounded episode where we grounded that on the backside within the engine compartment to the transmission, Hervey style, I think that provides a much better ground connection for the front relay bank. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get another ground cable and we're going to solder that to Dave McKeen's ground bus, and we're going to make the ground connection at that point. So in order to loosen this up, you're just going to need a 10mm socket to do that. So just take a 10mm and loosen it up. I've already kind of loosened it. There's a nut and a washer there. So you'll just remove those. And then we're just going to go ahead and run our new wire, which is going to be this one right here. So I'm going to run it underneath this large bundle of wiring here. So this is the wire I'm going to use. It's a heavier gauge wire, and I'm going to go ahead and just connect it here. And we'll go ahead and probably have to bend it a little bit so it fits better in there, because that kind of sits inside a little bit. It's a little recessed in there. You can tell that the main ground right here has the terminal right here. The ring connector is a little bent inward, so you'll probably have to do the same thing with your connection. So you can kind of bend it a little bit and just do a test fit here just to make sure it's going to fit right. Just get the nut on there by hand at first. There we go. So again, let me actually run it from behind. So let's do that. It's completely out of the way. So as you can see, we've routed our ground wire underneath that bundle, and we've routed it down here on the side of the relay compartment tray. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take our new ground bus, and it's hard to tell, but there's a little hole right about there. That hole should be in your ground tray as well. I don't know for sure, but it's in here. You could also use this little opening to run the wire through, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run the longer wire of the ground bus through this little opening right here, just like that. So that, and then you just pull through here, and what we'll do is we'll make our connection at the very end after we've connected the terminals here to the relays. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we've got our ground bus here. So we're just going to start connecting our connectors to each of the appropriate pins. Again, you've got some that are longer than others here. So you're going to want to make sure that you attach it to the right ones. And you know, it's always good to have a relay schematic handy, and also Dave's set of instructions as well. The way I wanted to do this was I was going to start with the fan module. That'll be the longer wire here. I'll go ahead and do that. And the fan fail module ground goes to pin 30, which is easy because that's the only one that we have here. Actually, you got to make sure they're oriented correctly. So there's a little tab on the top of these connectors, and then there's a slot right here. So you got to make sure they're oriented the same. That's how you are able to get them out. So that's in there. Kind of pull on it a little bit, just make sure it's not going to come out. So there's your fan module. The next wire is going to be for the fan relay. And remember, the fan relay also had a redundant ground that's in the center that's not going to be used. So we will install this in pin 85 of the fan relay, which is this one right here, noting the orientation for the tab. Go ahead and put that in there like this. Pull that in there. It should click in place. There we go. So if you hear that click, then you're good to go. So after the fan relay connection, now you're going to want to connect to the dome light relay socket here to pin 86. Again, make sure you got it in the right orientation and make sure you get that clicking sound. There's the click. Good to go there. And next up is the fourth one on this side, which is going to be the blower 4 relay socket, which is this one here. And this will be the short one that goes in there into pin 85. Gonna make sure it does not back out. That one's in there. And next we're gonna start over on this side here. So the short one is gonna go into the next blower relay socket, blower number 3. Go ahead and put that one in there. Clicked in, good to go. Next one after this is going to be right here. Gotta mind that connector wire there. Pull that through. And high beam relay socket. Again, this is going to be pin 85 right here. Clicked in, good to go. Last one, also the headlight low beam, pin 85 on that one. There we go, it's in there. So now we have the bus connected. What we're going to do next is connect these all together. Make sure everything fits right. Check our installation. There we go. So the entire relay bank is now wired up with the new ground bus right here. So it's a much cleaner installation, as you can see. And we're going to go ahead and fix that back on here with the screws. Make sure that the wiring is proper here. So that actually works out, the little wiring going inside the hole in the tray right there. And
And I think what we'll probably do is come back in and zip tie this bundle together here, just to tighten it up a little bit versus trying to get some electrical tape around there. We could do that as well here. Maybe kind of both, but we'll see what we got. So we're going to take some electrical tape and we'll go ahead and wrap these up. Just to clean it up a little bit, we'll do some more down here as well. Just to finish off the installation here. When you're wrapping this up, it's good to pull the tape a bit. It actually makes for better contact. So pull it a little bit, stretch it, and try to get it in between the wiring here. It's kind of a time-consuming process a little bit, but it's not too bad. There we go. We'll get that last bit at the very bottom there. The tape might get a little bit kind of stuck together there, but do the best you can. There we go. So our electrical tape wrapped up, and we're going to go ahead and fit this in here. Could also do this area down in here as well. I think we'll do that. I think I'll zip tie that one. So I've got some zip ties here. I'll go ahead and zip tie these bundles together here. Now this ground wire, you can heat shrink that off. We'll do that at the end of the installation. There we go, got that one there. I might do another one here, just to clean it up a bit. There we go. And we'll cut off the excess zip ties once we're done. There we go. That just keeps everything cleaner. So we'll cut off the excess now. So before you connect your relay bank here with the screws, you're going to want to make sure that your wire that you're using as your ground wire here to the bulkhead ground and the longer wire for the bus, you're gonna have to connect those two together. I'm gonna cut the bus wire back a little bit because it is pretty long. It's basically all of this right here, so probably cut it just enough where I can make my solder. So I'm gonna solder this together here roughly and heat shrink it. So you want to make sure that you put your heat shrink on before you do your soldering work. So we'll go ahead and do that. So you're also going to want to put everything back together. If you removed anything, just make sure it all goes back in place. So I think what we'll do next is we will screw in the relay bank and get that all situated. Then we'll go ahead and do our soldering here, and that should wrap things up. So you're going to want to start putting the relays in. I would recommend putting some of the relays in before you secure the bank to the tray here, just to make it a little easier on yourself when it goes to installing the relays again. And try to tuck the wiring as much as you can underneath here. So I went ahead and put the fan fail module back in just to make sure that's fine. This is the McKeen version of it. Of course, replace any other relays that you may have removed to help facilitate the installation. So you want to start putting your screws in there. So again, just use your 8mm. Now you can start putting your relays in. So you got your blower relays that are going in. Then your headlight relays going last. Now, your relay bank is complete. We'll go ahead and solder and heat shrink the connection and clean things up, and we should be good to go. Okay, so once you've made your connection here, which you've soldered and heat shrunk the connection, you can go ahead and tuck that down in there. Hide that wire as much as you can. And it should be out of the way completely now, so it's a much cleaner installation. Once again, you're going to that little hole right there, so that should be cool. There's a little bit of some play there just to give yourself some room there. I did trim off some of this right here to keep it as short as possible. So there's your completed installation. Now it's just time to start cleaning everything up here. Okay, so we just cleaned up everything, ready to go. That takes care of the installation of the Dave McKeen ground bus with the connection here to the bulkhead ground. So we're good to go.
All right, everybody, so that's the video. If you have any questions about the installation of Dave McKeen's ground bus, go ahead and drop a comment down below. And once again, thanks for watching.